The Fury by Michaelides. This is a recent release book and also an anticipated release of mine as well. It follows Lana Farah. She is a reclusive actress who has gone into retirement, and she invites her friends to go on this little holiday on her island. And these friends decide to relax, hang out, catch up, and then someone gets murdered. Someone is plotting a crime. I gave this book 4 stars, a very, very fast read. I read it between, I would say, a day and a half, 2 days. The chapters were so quick, so fast paced. There is quite a bit of Greek myths, Greek mythology, and just the small island vibes are really, really well done. And there's a bit of a backstory, a bit of a history, a bit of a story going on around this island, and how all that kind of Greek mythology talk about the island and the kind of backstory, the history of the island itself, and how it has a bit of a reputation, really makes me want to get into reading Greek mythology. And that is something that Michaelides puts in a lot of his books, or even all of his books, which is a little bit of Greek mythology, because I believe he is Greek himself. The narrator is a bit unreliable. You're supposed to not like him, you're supposed to find him annoying, and he is quite obsessive with a particular person. He has a bit of an obsessive personality, so just know that going into it, that I think it's more intentional. Him being obsessive, his views on things and the truths are a little bit skewed a little bit there. He makes it work for him. If I'm making any sense, you're going to have to read so that you're understanding what I'm trying to say. But with the way his brain works, he sees things differently, but in reality it's got completely different to what is actually really happening. But you know what? This main character is not the only one that is a bit unlikable. I think just about everyone is a bit unlikable here. They're not the best. I don't expect to go into thrillers reading about the most amazing people ever. I want bad people in thrillers. I want the trashiest of trashy humans that still have some sort of likability to them for me to continue reading and for me to like not hate a book. And a lot of these characters, actually all of these characters, have had a very bad childhood, have had a traumatic childhood that has affected their adulthood and has pretty much followed them into their adulthood and the decisions that they make. I felt like I was actually a little bit worried about this book. I was going to give it a bit of a low rating because I felt like some things were a little bit predictable, but it was done so well, some of the predictability. If a book can be predictable and have my predictions be correct, and I still enjoy it and I'm still like flabbergasted and jaw on the floor because it kind of like strays you all away a little bit and then it brings you back to your prediction. I really, really like when a book can do that. Like it puts your eyes somewhere else, but you still have your prediction, and you forget about your prediction, then bam, boom, the prediction comes true and you're like, holy crap, I was correct. But there were still some twists that I was still pleasantly surprised about, and there is a bit of a tie-in to The Silent Patient, which I was really surprised about, which is really making me want to reread that book again. And I bought the physical copy as well of The Silent Patient, so I'm really excited to dive back into that book. The tie-in to The Silent Patient is more towards the end of the book, and oh my god, the end of the book, oh my, just the book in general, just with the plot twist, just with the crime that was happening, I was like, oh my god, is this really happening? I was like, oh my god, it's actually, oh my god, is this gonna happen? I was kind of going back and forth between, ooh, is this person dead? No. Ooh, is this person dead? Wait, what's happening? There's another twist again. And then like the end was just kind of like bam, boom. It was just so quick, the end. I don't know what else to say. And that was how I felt about the book with the murder. It was just like, wait, what? Did this really happen? Oh my gosh, it did happen. And like truly the ending, like the ending before the tie-in to The Silent Patient, had my jaw on the floor, because you go back and forth between, like throughout the book, you go back and forth between, oh my god, did this happen? Oh my god, wait, what? Huh? What? There's twists, turns, roller coasters, and then the ending, just kaboom. It was pretty well. For me, I had my jaw on the floor at that point. Piranesi, you beautiful, beautiful book. Oh my goodness, it's a reread. Gave it 5 stars. My new favorite book now. I just fell I've fallen in love with it again. It's amazing. So you would think me having read this in the month of February, I would know what I'm talking about, but it's such a difficult book to try and explain without spoiling it. So it's about Piranesi. Right, he considers himself to be a bit of a scientist. He is living in this house where there are these halls of labyrinths and statues, and some of them are actually quite creepy. Just the visualization of some of those statues was very vivid and vibey. What's the word I'm thinking of? Descriptive. That's the word I'm thinking of, descriptive. The house pretty much has its own ecosystem in a way. There's clouds, there's tides, there's thunder. Tuesdays and Fridays, Piranesi sees his friend the Other. Messages begin to appear, and Piranesi's world is cracked wide open. Let me just say that. Truly phenomenal, phenomenal book. How can I best describe this book? There's a quote. I can't talk about this. Here it is. It is my belief that the world, or if you will the house, since the two are all for practical purposes identical, wishes an inhabitant for itself to be a witness to its beauty and the recipient of its mercies. That was just truly a beautiful quote, I thought, and I think that pretty much sums up the book perfectly. You're just wondering aimlessly, and there's this kind of mystery about who Piranesi is. You're just wandering the halls, and you'd think it'd be boring, but it's not. It's fantastic. It's very, very well done, and I really can't express my love for this book much more, because I don't know what to talk about, because I think I've said this before, the beauty in the book is just diving headfirst into it and just giving this book a chance. 5 stars, new all-time favorite. I really want to read what's it called again? Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I've wanted to read that book for a few years now, and I just haven't gotten around to it, unfortunately. I think Susanna Clarke has a bit of an illness, I believe, which makes it difficult for her to write, unfortunately. So she hasn't really come out with a lot of books recently. I know there is a book coming out, I don't know when, because of, like I said, of her illness. It's called The Cistern, and I will pretty much read anything she writes after reading this one for the second time and just loving it so much. Just give it a chance. Just give it a chance. I think you'll really, really like it. It's very vibey, very atmospheric. That was the word I was thinking of before. Atmospheric. It's atmospheric. It's just very well done. Very well done, very well written. This book is kind of like written in journal entries kind of thing. Yeah, there's like a whole mystery element as things are like unraveling, and the truth of why Piranesi is in the house is coming to light a little bit more. And it has like a slight focus on a niche that I am very, very interested in. And love it. Love it, love it. The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood. Oh my goodness. It follows... You'd think I'd know, honestly. So it follows Olive, and she really doesn't believe in love all that much. She doesn't really have a good track record with dating men, and her friend is a little bit concerned for her. For Olive to try to convince her friend that she is in the dating scene, she's okay in the romance side of her life, she kisses the first man she sees, which happens to be a young hotshot professor and known ass called Adam Carlson. And it's like a fake dating situation. Olive is shocked that Adam is agreeing to this fake dating situation. I gave this book 4 stars. I read it for a romance reading vlog. I will have the link of the vlog in the description or somewhere in the video if you want to check that out for more thoughts on this book that I have. And I was so pleasantly surprised they gave it 4 stars. It's a Reylo fanfic, and Reylo makes me want to vomit in my mouth. I've seen the Star Wars movies. I do not like Reylo as like a fan ship. I do not like it at all. I don't understand it. I said in that reading vlog that I thought the Reylo fanfic of it was more like the likeness of the actors. It really isn't. After doing some research into Reylo fanfiction, it's more to do with the characters of Reylo, plucking them from the Star Wars franchise and putting them into like another universe, an alternate universe pretty much, and that's what this one is. And I really enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised. I did not get 1 ounce of Reylo. These characters had more chemistry and more personality with each other than in the movies. Like, it was so good. It talks a lot about women in STEM and even BIPOC women in STEM and how difficult it is for women in the science field. Talks about abuse of power and bullying amongst professors and also post-grad students or just grad students. And like even some of the men have had some difficulties with some of these professors that are in such high power. It was really fascinating to see the science side of it, like having to get funding, having to ask these well-known scientists to let these grad students use their labs for their science, for their work. It was really fascinating to read about that. I thought Olive and Adam had really great chemistry. I thought they bounced off each other pretty good. They had good banter. Another thing I really loved about this was the complex emotions and complex, I don't want to say personalities, but the differences between personal and professional lives, especially with Adam, because he was one way with his post-grad students, and then he was a different way with Olive. And I really love seeing that duality, how your personal life is different to your professional life, and just, it was, honestly, it was surprising, but it just made sense to me because people are complex. People aren't just one thing, you know. And it's always a nice surprise when you realize, oh, people have a personality and they're not who you think they are. It's really nice to know that. This book did a really good job at showing Adam's emotions and showing Adam's feelings towards Olive without the use of a dual point of view. I've said it before, I'll say it again, some romances could benefit from a dual point of view. This one did not need it. I felt like his mannerisms and some of the things that he has said to Olive outright was enough for me to see that he really had a big crush on Olive and he really liked her. I think these characters were a little bit oblivious to that. I don't want to say there was like a miscommunication with this. I think it was just more the fact that they were lonely people and they didn't know how to express their feelings properly with one another. Just because of some of the things that have happened in that childhood, and we do get to explore that a little bit more. But I don't know what else I can say. I do have a reading vlog, like I said, that does explain my thoughts a little bit more than I can do in this wrap up. So please go check it out. I'm on the hype train for Ali Hazelwood now. It's really good. I really can't wait to read more of her adult romances. Happy Place by Emily Henry. It follows two people, Wyn and Harriet. They are in this friendship group, and Harriet and Wyn are a couple in this friendship group. They've been friends first and then they were a couple. And every year this friendship group takes a holiday, takes a trip to Maine. And what the friends don't know about Wyn and Harriet is that they have been split up for a few months. And Harriet and Wyn take this opportunity to tell their friends during this holiday that they are no longer together. They have to keep the idea that they are still together just a little bit longer for their friends, since, like I said, since they don't know that they have split up. This is the second and last book I read for the Reading Romance reading vlog, which took way longer to film than I really wanted it to, but I gave this book 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I said in that video, and I'll say it again here, it's a bit of a struggle to talk about this book and review it, so I'm just going to give you some key points. So it really talks about maturing, growing up, how either seeing bad or good relationships, romantic relationships amongst your parents can either have a positive or a negative effect when you step into a relationship when you're an adult. It talks about mental health a little bit as well, how even if you are in a really good supportive environment and a good household, like you had a really good childhood, you can still have issues. And that's a really good point to talk about. Really a lot about growing up, figuring yourself out, trying to keep this friendship group lasting, realizing you're on different paths in life. And what does that mean for this friendship group that you've built for years and years? And you have love and support from this friendship group. Is it going to last? And it talks about how scary moving on to a different era in your life can be, whether you're talking about marriage, talking about a career change. All that stuff is very scary and it's really difficult to navigate unless you have like a really good support system with you. And it really talks about how communication is a really important key in a relationship. You need to communicate, you need to talk about your feelings. Technically, this is like the second time I've read this book. When I first read this book, when it came out, I soft DNF'd it. I just was not in the right headspace for it, and I'm really glad I stuck through with it this time around, because I had a much better time. I was able to focus properly, and I was in a really good headspace while I was reading it as well. I'm a bit of an Emily Henry fangirl now. I'm pretty sure I will read just about anything she makes, anything she writes. Another thing that popped into my head about this book, it also talks about the pressures of being in this friendship group, but being in a relationship, a romantic relationship, and like two friends becoming a couple in this friendship group, and just the stress that it can possibly put on you. If something bad were to happen, can you really, I guess you could say, live with this person? Can you really live with the idea that they are still in this friendship group? And also okay, so things are starting to come back to me now. And also about how it's so comforting being in that younger carefree stage, but at some point you have to grow up. And it's really difficult for some people to do that, because taking the next step in your life is such a scary thing to do, and you're really trying to grasp onto this young carefree stage in your life that you had, because being an adult is really difficult. And it is a really good exploration of found family trope, maturing, growing up. It is a really, really fantastic book. Cuckoo Lands by Anthony Doerr. This is the last book I read in February, and also the first book that I read for a brand new series on this channel, which is reading books from my physical TBR. I don't think that reading vlog is ready to come out yet, but when it does, please make sure you have the notification bell on so that you can be updated for when that vlog is gonna come out. It follows 5 characters throughout different times in history, throughout different times in life, and they have a special connection, a special bond with this ancient text. And also this ancient text brings these characters together. These characters have an interconnectedness with each other throughout time, throughout history. I gave this book 4 stars. I really loved it. I was a little worried I wasn't going to. I was worried that it was going to be a bit too long and intimidating. It's like 622 pages. Yeah, 622, 626 if you count the author's note. It was a really good time. I read the bulk of this book in like 4 days. I was completely captivated by it. Just following these characters throughout the different timelines and throughout different times and moments in history, and seeing their day-to-day life, seeing how they live, a little bit of their backstory, where they came from, and the hardships that they face. And those hardships are actually interconnected with each other. They're like, it's like pretty much a rinse and repeat throughout history. It's war, if you want to know. Everyone's pretty much affected by war. Like, everyone goes through war. We're going through war right now. There's 2 wars going on. Also, how this book, Cuckoo Land, is a bit of a safe haven for these characters, and a hope that there is going to be a better place out there where people can be safe and not have to worry about hardships in their life. There is some really nice character development with some of these characters, and it felt natural. It didn't feel forced. The writing actually flowed really nicely. The writing was really nice and easy to read, and it did a really good job at placing you in these different times throughout history. It did a really good job with that. There is a gay character in here as well, which is a really nice surprise, and I believe either a person or a man in drag or a transgender person. I'm not entirely sure about that, but it does have some queer representation in here as well, which is really lovely to see. Just seeing this book, this lost ancient book, Greek ancient book, there is actually some Greek mythology in here. It talks a lot about Homer. The author Homer, I believe it's either Odyssey or Iliad. I think both of those books are mentioned in here, and I tell you, I've really got to get onto this Greek mythology bandwagon, because this is like either the 2nd or the 3rd book I've read that has mentioned Greek mythology, so I think it's a bit of a sign for me to read Greek mythology. Seeing what this this fictional book went through, how it first originated, where it was found. I actually thought this book had a bit of a connection with like Homer's books. I thought it was going to be like a fictional retelling of some of those books, just with how some things between this fictional book, Cloud Cuckoo Land, and also Homer's books were connected kind of thing, but it wasn't. And just to see what this book went through, this book pretty much survived throughout time, and what this book meant for a lot of people, and how it has some historical significance, because with this book you know what kind of ink was used, you can tell which time period this book was in, and stuff like that. Seeing the translation and trying to translate it with the because ancient Greek text, and trying to translate that, it was really fascinating to read that. One character had a really good twist. I was very shocked and surprised by that. It was such a good twist I did not see coming, and wow, bravo. This author is also the author of All the Light We Cannot See as well, which I really want to reread that one, because I was not, let me just say, I think I was young and I don't think I really understood properly that book, so I do want to reread that book. But this was so good. Okay, those 5 books were actually really good. I had a really good reading month in February. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I can really keep this really good momentum of reading books that I really like. Thank you for watching, everyone. Have you read any of these books? Did some of these books actually sound quite interesting to you? Please let me know, and I will see you in another video. Bye for now.